So I had a day to get it. I had 3 hours in that day. And I didn't have anyone to shoot it or film it. I had my 10-year-old son with me. And I said, son, you're about to learn how to shoot an audition and read for me.
You play Stone Cold Steve Austin in the NBC series Young Rock, which airs every Friday. So can you tell me, how did you land a role of playing one of the best WWE superstars of all time?
The greatest superstar of all time, the GOAT.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
I initially, Young Rock had reached out to me for coordinating the wrestling. Okay. Chavo Guerrero Jr. is their coordinator, and he had another project he was scheduled to do that overlapped.
Yeah.
Just timing wise, so they needed somebody to fill in. Chavo worked it out where he could end up staying. So a week later, they reached out to my agent and said, "Hey, we actually want Luke to audition for Steve Austin." And I thought, man, there's no way in hell I'm going to get this role. It's just such a big opportunity, to play Steve Austin on the #1 family comedy on NBC with the biggest star of all time right now, Dwayne Johnson. Right? I was like, it was such a huge opportunity. So I shot the first audition. It went well. They called me back for the second audition. And then the catch with the second one was I only had like 3 hours to get it in. It was a busy day. And I didn't know the dialogue, so I had to read it. And I also didn't have it. I was transferring. I was home for a day. Literally, I flew in from another project and I was flying out the next day for another project. So I had a day to get it. I had 3 hours in that day. And I didn't have anyone to shoot it or film it. I had my 10-year-old son with me. And I said, son, you're about to learn how to shoot an audition and read for me. So it was, dude, I thought it was going to be a challenge because he's never done it before. And I had to teach him all this stuff. And we learned it. We went over it together and he crushed it. And when I mean crushed it, it brought my energy up like 10 times through the roof because I'm like, my 10-year-old son who's never done an audition in his life is absolutely crushing reading and filming for me. So my energy went up. I mean, like it shot up like a rocket, right?
Yeah.
And we hit a home run. I got the role. So I got to contribute it to my 10-year-old.
That is awesome. I love that story. And but when you started filming Young Rock as Stone Cold Steve Austin, were you nervous at all? Because portraying a guy who you mentioned is the GOAT can't be easy.
I was nervous when I got there. I wasn't nervous. I've been in film for a long time. I've been in wrestling for a long time. So acting is nothing new. It's a challenge. It's always a challenge, but I never had a character where I had to walk and talk like someone else. This was the first time. And when I was rehearsing and studying and all that, it wasn't no big deal. I just kind of had it naturally. Which is weird because I never practiced that growing up, but I know Stone Cold so well because obviously who he is and my wrestling background. There's pretty much not a lot you could tell me about him that I wouldn't know because he's such an iconic character. The day we got there to shoot, though, and we actually went on set, I thought to myself, oh, man, what did you get yourself into? And we shot, and it was fantastic. We worked with Jeff Walker as the director in Australia for season 2. And it was such a great experience. The team was good. Uli was such a fantastic leader in the locker room as he plays the older Dwayne, and just the producers, the rest of the cast, everybody from A to Z on the show was phenomenal to work with, and it made the energy in the room come up that much more. And when you do a scene like that where everybody's feeding off each other and everybody has really good attitudes, it just makes magic, and I'm really appreciative of it.
Absolutely. And, after portraying Stone Cold Steve Austin, do you see any similarities between yourself and Steve Austin other than both of you having that professional wrestling background?
As far as the character goes when I portray him, or as far as just like in general between us?
In general, yeah, in general between you and Steve Austin.
We're both bald and white.
Yeah.
We're both Southern boys, Yep. I'm a Louisiana boy. He's a Texas boy. So we're right next door. We're neighbors. I just think the love and the passion, he's our style in the wrestling ring is different, but I like to be very versatile, and when you're acting, you have to be. So it's easy for me to flip the switch and go into his character and his style. But I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I don't practice. Obviously I watch his videos, and I want to when I'm playing his character, I want to get it down to a T as much as possible because I just want to do the character justice because of who he is. No, I mean, not just of who he is. Anybody I would want to do it justice, but it really takes more of a special place in your heart when you're playing someone so iconic. So yeah, there's the similarities is, just I guess being perfectionist. I know he wanted to do the best job he did in wrestling, and now portraying him, I want to do the best job I can do in being him.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that just because of the way the story of Young Rock sets up, you share a lot of scenes with 𝐒𝐲, who plays the old adult version of The Rock. So as you mentioned, you have that professional wrestling background, but how is 𝐒𝐲 in the ring when you have shared scenes with him?
What's crazy is wrestling's very difficult. It's very, very difficult, and it's very, very hard on your body. It's like putting yourself through a car wreck over and over again. So to take a guy like 𝐒𝐲 and having him not only have to work on his physical fitness and memorize pages and pages of dialogue, but then throw in learning how to wrestle and then learning the choreography of the matches is a very, very daunting task. So for him he does it very well. And I know it's not easy, and I know it's very grueling for him. So not just 𝐒𝐲, but all the actors on Young Rock, all the actors on Heels, the actors on Iron Claw, which is another project I'm working on. They all have to, really dig deep for these roles. And as a professional wrestler, I know how much it takes to do the sport. I respect them so much more for their love of their craft and how much they put into the wrestling aspect of it.
And this actually leads to my next question. You mentioned Heels. Season 2 should be coming out really soon. You started in also the wrestling coordinator. So what can fans expect from this upcoming season?
Much more action in season 2, man. We went balls to the wall for season 2 with the action and the hard hitting wrestling. So if you thought the drama was good in season 1, wait until we get to season 2.
That's awesome. So for this upcoming season of Heels, was training a little bit different than it was in season 1, or was it pretty much the same?
Oh, 100% it was different. Season 1, we were kind of locked inside of a bubble because of COVID. Season 2, it opened up a little bit. People were in and out, and so everybody wasn't, necessarily always there and always available because of other projects or, just other commitments. And we weren't all locked in together. So the guys really had to work twice as hard this season to keep up. Again, that's where much more respect goes to them because of the work that they had to put in for it. I just think that if people really knew how hard I've been on numerous films, right? From actions, dramas, comedies, with everybody under the sun, if you look at my resume. But to see the work that these guys put in on the wrestling on the back end, I really wish people from the outside could see that, because it would I really think it would give these guys a much bigger respect factor from the whole world, because it's difficult. I mean, I couldn't explain really how difficult it was. And these guys pull it off. And you'll see in season 2 of Heels. You'll see the action. You'll see how hard, all of them work. You'll see, and you got to think, everybody comes from a different background. Everybody's different ages. Some are younger, some are older. You take a guy like Chris Bauer, who's an older actor, right? And he has to get in the ring and perform at a top level as a wrestler. And he doesn't.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to season 2 of Heels.
And you mentioned Iron Claw, and I forgot you were working on that movie, and I got to see images of Zac Efron as one of the Von Erichs. It also stars Jeremy Allen White as one of the Von Erichs as well. So how has that experience been, and what can fans expect from the Iron Claw?
Man, what's cool about this? I'm to watch the transformation of these guys, like Harris Dickinson, who also stars in it. He plays David, right? These guys came in with no wrestling knowledge, none. Some of them didn't, they wasn't really familiar with it. Like, they heard of it, they know of it, or some of them watched it when they were younger. But to make these transformations on their bodies and to put the work, they all have stunt doubles legally. But these guys are doing 90% of the work, and they're taking the blows, and they're taking the hits, and they're taking the slams. So when you see the realism of a guy like Zac Efron and a guy like Jeremy and a guy like Harris, and they're in there, even Hope, who plays Fritz, he's in his mid-60s, I think, and he has some action scenes. And the work that Hope was putting in to perfect the wrestling is just crazy, man, especially at his age. So when you see a project like Iron Claw come out and you see how just intense the wrestling scenes are, you're gonna take your hat off for it for sure.
Definitely looking forward to that. And just a few more questions before I let you go. You talk about your professional wrestling career. So what would you say is your favorite moment in as a professional wrestler?
Oh, tag teaming with my son, my oldest son, PJ Hawx. We're the first full-time and only full-time father-son wrestling tag team, which is crazy because I raised him, right? I remember my son when he was an infant, when he was a baby, feeding him, and now I'm traveling the world with him, not just in film, because he's on Heels and other projects with me as well, but in professional wrestling, we're a full-time tag team. So we do everything together. We train together. We work out, everything from A to Z. We share a room. We share same flights. And I'm doing this with my oldest son. Can you imagine how great of a feeling that is for me as a father?
Oh, yeah. That has to be so awesome.
You can't replace it. It's the greatest feeling in the world.
Absolutely. And the last question for me before I let you go is, you've also spent a little bit of time in WWE, appeared in some matches. So what are some of the things you learned while being in WWE?
That the film world was a much better opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's why I transferred, over into film full time. Like I always continued wrestling because I love wrestling. I wrestle now full time still along with the film. But, the film work was where I knew I could make a difference in my career and help others as well. That wanted to get out. Wrestling is stuck in a bubble. Mm-hmm. So, the entertainment world's a much bigger scale and a much bigger fan base and much more opportunity, where in wrestling, you have limited opportunities.
Yeah.
So I knew that if I wanted to make a difference in my community at home with my promotion, Wildcat Sports, and the way I grew up, like, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I grew up in a boys' home. I got adopted at 15. So I had this really crazy life. I grew up in Boys Town. So I had this really crazy life, and to make this transition and come from not having a family or a really messed up family and providing opportunities for others and being able to tag with my son and be on the road with my son and film with my son. These are amazing things in life that, 99.9% of the world would never, ever get to do. And I get to do it. So my life was really terrible growing up, but I was able to transition into this wonderful thing with my children. And again, provide opportunities for my community and build that up. What I think is really important.
Absolutely awesome, man. Well, Luke, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Congratulations on Young Rock, Heels, Iron Claw, and continued success to you.